Ilia Topuria vs Arman Tsarukyan needs to happen.
Listen, it's not on my back, bro. I don't fucking care. They're gonna give him a fight before the title shot, because there is no way. I'm the world champion. I'm never gonna give him a chance to fight for the title. I will be like, listen, if that's the case, take my belt.
He feels that he's gonna lose that fight. It's better to give the belt and then like go up or like wait when what happened with me, because he knows just I'm a big problem for him. I'm gonna get his title. He knows that, and he wants to get easy fights with Perry or Gage or with someone, just make money and to defend. But with me, it's gonna be hard for him. I just wanna say, Ilia, you know who is the #1 contender, and you know exactly who you're gonna fight. It's me. Don't try to play with anybody. So I'll see you soon.
There's been a bunch of rumors about Topuria's next fight being up against Paddy Pimblett or Justin Gaethje, but in my opinion, I think the next matchup has to be Arman Tsarukyan. It answers a lot of questions in the career of Ilia Topuria while also being the most deserving challenger for the belt at 155 next. But quickly, before we get the video started, my name is JuicyMMA. I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, as only 10% of you watching are actually subscribed. But also, if you guys are enjoying the content and want to support the channel, be sure to hit that join button for members only live streams, videos, alongside with other perks as well. But anyways, let's get into it. When Topuria originally decided to make the decision to move up to the lightweight division, it became very clear that a huge reason for why Topuria made this decision was because he wanted to go up against Islam Makhachev. But after Makhachev decided to move up at the same time as Ilia did and moved up to 170 pounds, Topuria's mission changed, at least slightly changed, as he then was going to go up against Charles Oliveira for the vacant belt. And obviously, as that fight has come and gone, we all know how it went. Topuria was not only able to beat Charles, but he was able to beat him in emphatic fashion. And at this point, it seems like Topuria's next fight is a little bit in question. Most people expect Topuria to have at least one more fight at 155, but the big question is, who is it going to be? As three potential options out there are Arman Tsarukyan, Justin Gaethje, and Paddy Pimblett. And I guess you could make an argument or a claim for each one of those fighters on why they should get the shot, but in my personal opinion, I think by far the guy who deserves it most and by far the most compelling matchup would be Arman Tsarukyan. And I feel this way for a couple different reasons. The first reason I want to touch upon is just due to the fact that Arman Tsarukyan deserves a shot more than both Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett. As when you look at Paddy Pimblett, his best and most recent win was over a washed Michael Chandler, and he's #7 in the rankings. And when you look at Justin Gaethje, his most recent win was against Fiziev, and not too long before that, he was knocked out cold by Max Holloway. And when you talk about Arman Tsarukyan, he's the legitimate #1 contender, and his most recent win was against Charles Oliveira. And yes, I do get the argument that people bring up that Arman Tsarukyan already earned his title shot and got his title shot earlier on this year versus Islam Makhachev and blew his opportunity, which is certainly fair, but at the same time, as I said before, when you look at the current resumes of the two other guys that may be able to get the next shot in Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, I still feel as if Arman Tsarukyan's resume is better than theirs, and even though he did blow his opportunity, which 100% is fair, he still deserves it more than those other two fighters. But the next and main reason for why I want to see Arman Tsarukyan fight Ilia Topuria next for the belt is due to the questions it'll answer. Because when you talk about Ilia Topuria, he's had an amazing career thus far. He's been able to knock out Charles Oliveira, Alexander Volkanovski, and Max Holloway back to back to back, which is just an insane resume. But one question a lot of fight fans continuously bring up with Topuria is how would he do against a legitimately high-level wrestler? Because when you look at Topuria's career thus far, although he's went up against some very high-level fighters, he's never went up against a high-level wrestler. And yes, I do know if he did fight Islam Makhachev, we would have got answers to those questions, but of course at this point it just doesn't seem super likely that we're going to get it, at least anytime soon. So I think the next guy that would make the most sense in order to answer some questions alongside with the fact that it just makes the most sense would be Arman Tsarukyan. And assuming that Ilia and Arman do fight, when we do eventually or potentially get that fight between Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria down the line, we'll have a much better understanding or a much better idea of how Topuria could potentially deal with the wrestling ability of Islam Makhachev. But the next reason for why I think Arman Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria has to happen is due to the fact that Arman is the toughest matchup for Topuria. Because typically when you talk about champions fighting potential contenders, in an ideal world what you would like to see is the most difficult matchups for the champions. You want to see the best fight the best. And when you talk about the potential options at 155, talking about Gaethje, talking about Pimlet, and talking about Tsarukyan, I think it's pretty clear out of those potential matchups, Arman Tsarukyan is by far the toughest fight for Ilia Topuria, and he's by far the best fighter out of those other two. So based upon that, I think the appeal going into the fight will be the highest out of those other couple potential matchups because Arman Tsarukyan is such a tough matchup, at least on paper, for Ilia Topuria. But a question that some of you may be wondering at this point is what would be my official predictions for this potential matchup? Well, in my opinion, I would lean towards an Ilia Topuria TKO, and I feel this way for a couple different reasons. The first reason I want to touch upon is the striking, because when you look at the striking difference between Arman Tsarukyan and Ilia Topuria, it's significant. For Ilia Topuria, he's one of, if not the best boxers in the entire UFC, and although Arman Tsarukyan does do things well out there on the feet due to his athleticism, due to his power, and due to his explosiveness, at the end of the day, when you talk about the striking technique of both of these guys, it's a pretty significant difference. And if this fight were to be held on the feet for any sort of extended period, I do think Topuria will eventually be able to pressure Arman effectively, and he'll eventually be able to put punches together in combination, land one big right hand or land one big left hook, and find the knockout on Arman Tsarukyan. And also, when you consider the fact that Arman Tsarukyan doesn't have an amazing chin from what he showed so far in his UFC career, it does seem like somewhat of a difficult matchup to go up against a guy as skilled and as powerful as Ilia Topuria. Now, the next reason for why I think Topuria will beat Arman Tsarukyan is due to his own wrestling. Because as I mentioned before in the video, I do think Arman Tsarukyan will be able to have success in this fight. I do think early on he'll be able to find a couple takedowns, find some control time, land some big time elbows from up top, but as the fight does progress, I think due to Ilia Topuria's wrestling acumen, he'll eventually be able to stop a takedown. And as I touched upon before, if he is able to keep the fight on the feet for an extended period, that's really where Topuria can have success, and that's really where he can go to work. So I do think his wrestling acumen is also going to be a huge factor in this fight versus Arman Tsarukyan. Now, another question that some of you may be wondering at this point is what will Ilia Topuria decide to do assuming he does beat and get past Arman Tsarukyan? Well, in my opinion, it is possible that he decides to fight one more time at 155 against Paddy Pimblett potentially, but much more likely, I think if Topuria gets past Arman Tsarukyan, he's going to decide to move up to 170, and hopefully for his sake, Islam Makhachev will be the champion at that weight class, and we can finally see Ilia versus Islam. I think for Ilia Topuria, it's very clear he wants to fight Islam Makhachev, but even more so than that, he wants to be a 3-division champ, and he wants to do things that no other fighters have been able to do before. I've talked about this in a lot of my live streams and a lot of my videos, but for Ilia Topuria, I don't really see him as a guy or as a fighter that's going to fight for all that much longer. I think what he wants to do in his mind is fight the best, beat the best, find finishes, and do things that no other fighter has done before. And one of those things could potentially be becoming a 3-division champion. Now, obviously, at this point, a lot of things need to go Topuria's way in order for him to accomplish that, but I think in his mind, that's what he wants to do. He wants to beat Arman Tsarukyan, he wants to move up to 170, and he wants to beat Islam Makhachev, becoming the 3-division champ, the first 3-division champ in UFC history. And I think at that point, there's a very good chance he could retire if he's able to accomplish those things. And maybe Topuria will decide to box after his MMA career is all said and done, but I think at this point, a very likely career path for Topuria would be to get one more title defense at 155, move up to 170, get a knockout, or at the very least become the champion of 170 pounds. And at that point, I think there's a very good chance we see Ilia Topuria to retire, at least from MMA. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan has to happen, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now. And until the next time, peace out, guys.